Well, the Prime Minister is under significant pressure today to maintain unity as his government fractures over the Israel-Hamas conflict. Albanese has expressed his support for Israel on multiple occasions, including at a synagogue last week, where he claimed to speak on behalf of the government.
The government and the people of Australia unequivocally condemn the attack by Hamas. The targeting of civilians and the taking of hostages is an affront to all Australians, and we condemn these horrific acts.
But this week we've seen a string of Labor MPs express their support for Palestine. Frontbencher Anne Ali called for Israel to be investigated for war crimes.
No food, no energy, no way out. It is hard to argue that it is not a form of collective punishment.
Another Labor MP, Maria Van Vakunu, attended a pro-Palestine rally and labelled Israel's retaliation an invasion.
The people of Gaza cannot be collateral damage. Hamas is a terrorist organisation. But there is no justification whatsoever under any rules of war or anything that will allow a civilian population to square off against an army.
So IDF is a terrorist organisation as well?
It is an army.
Fatima Payman, a Labor senator, also had this to say in Parliament the other day.
The international community loudly and proudly condemned Russia's occupation of Ukraine when it started attacking Ukraine in 2014. Yet today, the world watches as the State of Israel deprives the entire population, men, women and children, of the basic necessities of life: food, water, electricity, gas and medicines. We must condemn it.
And then we have the latest development, a comment from Ed Husic today. He's the Minister for Industry and Science and a Muslim himself. Here he was on ABC Radio National.
The number of Palestinians that have been killed so far equates to the number of people who lost their lives 9/11. We don't see any public landmarks in Australia that are being lit up in red, black, white and green. I feel very strongly that Palestinians are being collectively punished here for Hamas's barbarism.
In response to that, Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill has today attempted to distance herself from her colleagues' remarks, insisting, quote unquote, Israel does have a right to defend itself. But Albanese faces within his party a common problem across the Western left, a tendency to decry and alienate our allies to our own detriment. It's like when we saw people at Sydney University last week brandishing a sign saying Queers for Palestine. The reality is that queer people, and many other people in the West for that matter, wouldn't last 5 minutes in Palestine. It's said that turkeys don't vote for Christmas, but in this discussion, many seem to do so. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. It's not only one of the most socially liberal nations in the Middle East, but in the world. It's often ranked as one of the safest and most accepting places on earth for gay people, a nation in the Middle East. Now, while there's little likelihood any of this would change the government's official view, and nor should it, it sends a message to the Middle East that there is disquiet among the ranks. Using our parliament, our house of democracy, to weigh in against our ally is misguided at best and dangerous at worst. This is war. I mean, no one wants to see innocent civilians killed, but that is the unfortunate reality of war. Do not forget that this latest outbreak of fighting was caused by Hamas launching an attack on innocent people at a music festival, flying in on gliders, and then entering communities to indiscriminately kill people, including women and children. The left often engages in Western self-loathing. Despite enjoying all the spoils and traps of living in a comfortable and safe part of the world that exists because of democracy and the rule of law, they support people in countries and organisations that would seek to destroy that. They do so because they take issue with the colonial past of the West. They somehow, perversely, see us as irredeemable wrongdoers and those who would seek to wipe us off the planet as somehow virtuous. Again, these people would not last 5 minutes under the rule of an outfit like Hamas or in any other Muslim nations they so often defend. De Husic and co propose that Israel should not be allowed to defend itself. Should it stand by and watch its people, the Jewish people, one of the most oppressed peoples in living memory, to be killed in the single biggest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust and do nothing? To light up the Sydney Opera House or any other building in the country in the colours of the Palestinian flag, although perhaps well-meaning and a heartfelt message to innocent civilians who have died, would send a message that Australia stands with Palestine. We cannot do that. Now, there are, of course, religious and deep historical motivations for this war on both sides. But for us as Australia, and likewise the US, that's why Joe Biden is over in Israel at the moment, we must always stand with democracy. We should be even more serious about standing with democracy in our home of democracy, Parliament House. At the very least, the Prime Minister needs to counsel his members and ministers over their comments. The government needs to present a united front. It's this kind of disunity that allows anti-Semitism to breed. We saw it on the streets of Sydney and Melbourne last week. There are legitimate discussions to be had about the cost of war, but Australia has a very clear ally here, and it isn't Hamas. Now is not the time to buy into arguments that undermine our ultimate goals, however well-meaning they may be.